I'm right behind him with all my stuff on, my mosquito repellent and my long sleeves and my boots and everything to kind of save myself from the bugs and all the things that we're all kind of afraid of. And here he was, bare-chested, walking without any covering, and cutting the trail. And then he stopped like this. And he said, "Can you feel them?" Now he's speaking in Spanish, and I don't really speak Spanish very well, but I was pretty sure he said, "Can you feel them?" I looked around and I said, "What do you mean? Who? Who are you talking about?" He said, No, listen, stop. Just listen and open your heart. Can you feel them?" And so I still. And then he said, "The millions and millions of souls."
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be talking with Lynne Twist. Lynne Twist is the founder of the Soul of Money Institute and author of The Soul of Money, Transforming Your Relationship with Money and Life. She has been a featured speaker for the United Nations Beijing Women's Conference, State of the World Forum, and Synthesis dialogues with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, among others. Lynne is the recipient of the prestigious Woman of Distinction Award from the United Nations. Right now, what are you into? What is making you the happiest, or not necessarily the happiest, but has you the most passionate at the moment?
Oh gosh. Well, it's hard to give you one answer.
Oh, then give me four. I don't care.
I'll give you four. Yeah. Well, one is talking to you. That's totally fun.
Yes.
I've just come from what's called the President's Day weekend with my children and grandchildren. And it's just so rare when your kids grow up and they have children of their own, to get everybody to come together is always like, there's in-laws and all these jobs.
Yes, a lot of juggling. Yes.
Jobs and things in the way, like work. And we were all together. It was so fun skiing together up in the mountains. And I'm still in the blush and the glow of being with my grandkids and my kids and their partners. So that's number one. And then number two is I just finished a book. After years, I'm not very good at writing. I have to have a collaborative writer and I talk to them. That's how I do it. And years of working on a book called Living a Committed Life, finding freedom and fulfillment in a purpose larger than yourself. And that's been it's a little bit of a memoir, but it's also about all the amazing people that I've had the great honor of working with and hanging out with. So it's a lot about them. And then the third thing, when you ask that question, is I've been working for many years in the Amazon rainforest with an organization that I co-founded with my husband, Bill, and John Perkins, our friend, called the Pachamama Alliance. And Pachamama means Mother Earth. And it's an alliance between the indigenous people of the Amazon, in particular area, the Sacred Headwaters area, and conscious, committed people in the modern world, like everybody listening to this wonderful conversation, for the sustainability of life. So I've been very engaged in working in the Amazon with indigenous people. And then we've created online programs, Pachamama Alliance has, all over the world to wake people up from the trance of consumerism and despair and apathy and what can we do about the climate, to getting into action, because we can turn it around, because we caused it, we can undo it. So that's a big thing for me. So those three things came to mind when you said that.
Well, that's great. Actually, I have something to say about the last one. You did a presentation at the Transformational Leadership Council. It's got to have been, was it 15 years ago? It was
Probably, I think. Yeah.
It was a long time ago. But you moved, I was moved to tears. It was the first time I saw clearly, I kind of knew that before, but that how much I and the whole planet was lost in more is better.
Mm.
And and its consequences. And it was a very simple, from the heart presentation, but it actually changed me. I ever since then, I've been trying to help people see that more isn't necessarily better. And I've been living that in my own life. So I just want to thank you for that. That was, I guess it was partially related to Pachamama, but it was also just related to just the goodness that you bring to this planet and wanting to share that, because it was a group of us who were we were all leaders of organizations, and to try to get all of us to recognize that more isn't necessarily better was a really smart thing for you to do, because we all have spheres of influence. And at least through my organization, there's very few courses I teach where I don't at some point make that point to people.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Again, it was for me a turning point in this life.
I love hearing that.
Yes. And I wish we'd stayed more in touch, but I just wanted you to hear that. And I wanted to say that out loud for everyone listening to know what an amazing person you are.
No, well, that message that I now realize, I remember what I talked about was the message of the book, The Soul of Money.
Yes.
And really looking at our relationship with money has kind of hijacked our lives, so that we absolutely kind of are in a trance about more is better. We've got to have more of everything. And it's,
right.
It's a mindset of scarcity that drives us into being inconsistent with our own humanity and taking more from the planet than we need. And it's gotten us into a lot of climate trouble. So I'm so happy to hear that it stuck with you and that you've proliferated that message. So that
yes,
people
I
realize
continue to
enough.
do that. That's right.
Enough. Just what they have right now is enough.
Yes, because again, what is, or what we are, depending on how you want to express it, is all. So how could that not have enough? What is everything. What we are is everything. We're not just a limited body mind. We're all that is. And how could that actually want or need for anything? And also this beautiful planet that we share with all sorts of other species and plants and animals, and this environment, it's our home. If we treated we would never treat our homes the way we're currently treating our planet. We just wouldn't do that if we really saw it that way.
It's true. Yeah. I think that the climate crisis is not happening to us. Maybe it's happening for us. And when you look at something that's happening for you as a teaching, as a wake-up call, as an opportunity, as a breakdown that has the seeds of its own breakthrough.
Yes.
The climate crisis and even the pandemic, which, there's tragic consequences, of course, to both. But if we can shift it from happening to us, that we're victims of something over which we have no control, to it's happening for us in a way that is a teaching, a wake-up call. Paul Hawken likes to say we're being homeschooled by the mother.
Right.
Then there's enormous power in realizing that every living thing on this planet is being homeschooled, is receiving feedback to make the course correction that's ours to make. And it's such a generous thing for her to do, our mother, rather than just kind of, shutting us off from all that she gives. So beautiful, beautiful way to look at it. And also gets you moving into action rather than be terrified that you've done something wrong, Rather, oh, we can change the course. We can do it. We can reboot. We can reimagine. We can recreate. We can reset. We can rebirth ourselves. And I think
Right.
that's what's happening.
I agree. It seems to be happening on a planetary level.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of think the pandemic, although very powerfully hurtful for so many people, and many deaths and many lost loved ones and many illnesses that should never have been in many ways. But if we look at it, let's kind of step back 30,000 feet, you could say the pandemic is morning sickness for a species that's pregnant and being reborn. And when I had my first child, when I had morning sickness, I didn't know I was pregnant. I thought there was something wrong with me. So I kept wondering, why was I throwing up, and why was I so tired, and and then when I had this incredible news I was having a baby, then throwing up and being tired and all that had a context that was inspiring and wonderful. Same facts, still throwing up, still being tired in the afternoon. But now this was like, oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, I'm going to throw up again, And I think we need a context for the pandemic that is empowering. And that's my context, that we're pregnant and we don't know it. We're having morning sickness, and we are maybe a little mourning with mourning sickness from all we've done that was kind of off course to our mother. But now we're pregnant with a new kind of human being that we are going to give birth to, and it'll probably be a long labor and kind of a difficult delivery. But if we stay with it, we could be reborn. So that's one way of looking at it.
And it's happening on every level. The teachings that are coming out all over the planet, or the message. On one level, it's all about loving the mother and taking care of the mother and honoring the mother and recognizing that the mother isn't separate from you. The hubris of the human beings thinking they're separate from nature and they can somehow manipulate it is extreme. But there's this other hubris where we think that we're little gods and goddesses running around in charge of deciding how the planet is supposed to be. Whereas if the more we get ourselves out of the way, the more there's this natural beauty and harmony and just unconditional love that shines through, that is already pointing us in the directions that we need to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And it's happening on every level, not just about climate change and the pandemic and all the other crazy things that are going on the planet. Sometimes, as in fact, I think you made that point in that presentation, but sometimes the old needs to break down.
Yes.
In order to make room for the new. And I don't think many people would vehemently, certainly not the type of people who are going to listen to this, are going to vehemently argue with the fact that the old is breaking down, just trying to keep patching it up. It's, and I don't know where I heard this from. This may have been from you too, but it's like moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic while it sinks. Mm-hmm. Unless we pay attention. That's all we're doing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, I think maybe another way of talking about what you're saying, I absolutely agree, is that the job of the conscious beings on this planet, like yourself and the people listening to this, is to hospice the death of the old systems that no longer serve us, to hospice them, because they are dying. They are no longer viable and they're falling apart. Right before our eyes, our political system, our democracy, our education system, our healthcare system, our economic system, our relationship with the natural world. We hospice the death of the old structures and systems and ways of seeing that no longer serve us. We give them a dignified death. They'll die faster. They are dying because they're unsustainable. And when something is hospice, it dies with dignity and we don't make it wrong because it's what we lived in for so long.
Right.
And then we can midwife the birth of the new structures and systems that we now know are more accurately rooted in the truth and integrity of the way we understand life to be now, and our relationship with one another, with the natural world, with the long-term future of life. We've been homeschooled so we can hospice the birth of the new structures and systems that will serve us, that are more accurate, more authentic, more appropriate to what we now know about ourselves and our role in the universe, our place in the great community of life. Mm-hmm. So hospicing and midwifing are both acts of love, really.
Yes.
It's love that is being called for.
Yes, that's always the answer.
Isn't it always the answer?
And it's also everything that's happening, even the things that appear, and this might be outrageous for some to hear, but I believe is that everything we're experiencing is love being expressed. Mm-hmm. Even the destructive, what appears to be the destructive forms, is that one unconditional love being expressed through us, and as all that's happening. Mm-hmm. And if we can just stay open to that, at least as a possibility, then we're more open, I believe, to being motivated by love instead of need, by love instead of it's all about me, and by love instead of I have to have my way and you can go see the highway. Yeah. And also love doesn't make anyone or anything wrong.
Right. So wonderful.
And again, what you said is that, I mean, if you're hospicing systems that are dying, you don't lecture people as they die. You just make them comfortable. You do what you can to support them. You don't attack them. Yeah. You love them. And as a midwife, you're just here to welcome new life into the world through love. And I think that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also another way of looking at what's going on is I like to make a distinction. I think I did this also at a TLC meeting between change and transformation.
Yes.
And change is useful and important, and you want to change your location, move to Bellingham, you want to change this, that, and the other thing. Very important, not bad or wrong. But change has a dynamic where you normally, and this is so in the political realm for sure, but we say we want to change because we're making something wrong. The way it is wrong. And we're going to make it right by changing it.
Right.
So the nature of change is to kind of insult something and then introduce something that you say is better. And so it's very comparative. Whereas transformation is so different. Transformation never denies the past or makes it wrong. It has it make sense. Oh, I see now. So transformation is really afoot now, I think. You've been dealing in transformation your whole life, so have I. And change is really important. I'm not saying don't change things, but transformation is completely all-encompassing and allows you to see that the past makes total sense now. That's why I was married to that guy, to have those 3 kids. And the divorce gave me the independence I didn't even know I wanted. And now I'm so fulfilled because I'm on my own and learning how to live in my own, like that. That's an example of a transformation.
Yes,
or
yes,
to discover that the throwing up every morning is because I'm having a baby rather than there's something wrong with me is a transformation. Suddenly the whole thing makes sense. So the context of transformation is such an important part of what you teach, I just want to say, and allows people to be at peace with what seems to be not working, so that they see its power, its teaching, the seeds of a breakthrough in it. And I love that about you. So I want to say that.
That's sweet. I could spend this whole discussion talking about the things I love about you too. So tell me more about your upcoming book. This podcast is going to come out before your book comes out, but I'm sure there's some learnings in that book that you wouldn't mind sharing with everyone.
Well, it's called Living a Committed Life, Finding Freedom and Fulfillment in a Purpose Larger Than Yourself. And it really, it got started by Jack Canfield, your friend and mine. He, at several TLC meetings, I would be given the opportunity to speak, and I would always tell stories. And
Yes.
He went to the Amazon rainforest with me. And after that, all the people who went with him and others who'd been all told a lot of stories. And Jack one day said to me, Lynn, I'm the story guy, as you know. I mean, everybody tells stories, but I've really done a good job with that. I've sold 500 million books of stories.
Yeah, he's good at sharing stories.
Chicken Soup for the Soul is one of the most powerful and popular titles ever. And he said, I want you to write a book of stories, and I want to encourage you to do that. And here's how I'll get you started. You come to my house in Santa Barbara. I'll get 20 people, 20, 30 people. We'll take 2 or 3 days. We'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, and I'll just interview you, and you just tell story after story after story after story of things that you've seen and done in your life, and the people you've worked with, and the work of ending world hunger in India, Bangladesh, Sub-Saharan Africa, the work of working with indigenous people in the Amazon, the work with working with Nobel women, the times I met with Mother Teresa. And I'll record it all, Jack says. And then it'll be the core material for a book of stories. So I said, oh my God, okay, I'll do that. How fun. So I did do that. I went to his house. We sat around the beautiful living room, which you've been in, and he put me on a bar stool, right in front of her. And he sat next to me, and he just asked me questions. And I told 53 stories in like a day and a half, I'd say, to these wonderful people. Because I'm not a writer the way probably you are. I'm a storyteller. I'm a communicator.
Yes.
And I need
very
people.
good at it.
I need people to talk to. So he provided the people to talk to. He asked me the questions, and I told the stories. And then it got all cataloged. So that's how this book started. So I just want to honor and acknowledge and bow to Jack Canfield, because then the stories, it became a story bank, sat in my, some digital category that my assistant had. And then as I was walking through life, I tell other stories on a podcast like this one, and they put more stories in the story bank. We ended up with 167 stories. And that's way more than can go in a book. But
way more, yeah.
But then I'm not, as I say, I'm not so good at sitting down and writing, but I'm pretty good at talking. So my friend Mary Earl Chase, she's a wonderful collaborative writer. She said, look, I'm going to just come and sit with you 2 hours a week, and we'll take all of this and put this in a book, and I'll help you do it. And so she did. And for the last couple of years, Mary and I, sometimes 2 hours a week, sometimes 4 hours a week, would just talk, or I would talk and she would record. And then she, thank God for her, organized it into chapters of distinctions, I'll call them, like the distinction between change and transformation, or the distinction between taking a position and taking a stand. Or the distinction of a breakdown always has the seeds of a breakthrough, or being how important it is to find a way to be proximate to suffering if you're not suffering yourself, or what does it mean to live in the context of possibilities. I'm just looking at chapters in my book, and so we put it all into a book that really helps people deal with what is going on in their life through understanding how to deal with it through stories. Stories not only about me, but about Van Jones, my dear friend, or Jack Canfield, or Hafsat Abiola, or Jane Goodall, just people I admire. And the point of the whole book is to to have people realize that the times we're living in are calling for people to live a much more committed life, a bigger life, a life where they really see that they can turn their life over to a contribution that's theirs to make, and that that's the source of tremendous satisfaction rather than accumulating more stuff or trying to keep yourself separate from other people, but rather to step into the great challenges of our time rather than be afraid of them and make a contribution to resolving them. And so that's the new book, and it's coming out in October.
That's wonderful. So, is there? I'm sure they're all your favorite stories. That's why they're in the book. Is there a story that you'd like to share with all of us?
Sure. Well, I've had many, but I'll start with the last 27 years I've been working in the Amazon rainforest, and that has given me such a deep understanding of the natural world through the way the indigenous people live and how they see themselves as part of the natural world rather than living in the forest. They are of the forest. And one of my greatest teachers has been a shaman whose name is Manari Ushiwa. And Manari is a Zapara man. Zapara people, there's only 635 of them left. They're facing extinction. And Manari is their leader, and he's also the shaman. And I was in his area of the rainforest called Zapara Territory, which is roadless and pristine and very stunningly, magnificently beautiful. And I was in the forest with him, walking behind him as he cut a trail with his machete. So this is this beautiful man. I can show you a picture of him if I can find it, but just this beautiful indigenous man, bare-chested, barefooted, and he's walking in the forest. I'm right behind him with my all my stuff on, my mosquito repellent and my long sleeves and my boots and everything to kind of save myself from the bugs and all the things that we're all kind of afraid of. And here he was, bare-chested, walking absolutely, without any kind of covering, and cutting the trail. And then he stopped like this, and he said, "Can you feel them?" Now he's speaking in Spanish, and I don't really speak Spanish very well, but I was pretty sure he said, "Can you feel them?" I looked around, and I said, "What do you mean? Who are you talking about?" He said, No, listen, stop. Just listen and open your heart. Can you feel them? And so I still. And then he said, the millions and millions of souls. And in that moment, every leaf, every twig, every ant, every worm, every snake, every monkey, but every plant, every flower, every orchid had a soul for me too. And I experienced being in the company, almost like a visceral, physical experience of being in the company of millions and millions and millions of souls. And ever since then, I started to cry, and it was so palpable and real and true. And it never had occurred to me before. I mean, prior to him saying that, I was, scared of the bugs, you could say.
Right.
And after that moment, and I can tell you to this moment now, sitting here with you, it's all changed for me. When I am walking anywhere, and it doesn't need to be in a forest, it can be by a river, it can be by the ocean, it can be walking down a city street, and there's a tree there, I feel a being, a real being. And I've recently been working with a woman named Suzanne Simard, Dr. Suzanne Simard. She wrote a book called Finding the Mother Tree.
Oh, it's a wonderful book. Yes.
Have you read that book? It's just awesome.
Amy, my wife, Amy. Amy, my wife, read it, and I read parts of it. But the book, it's a wonderful book.
And her TED Talk has 10 million views because she tells about the forest is a society of souls.
Yes, yes,
There's mother trees. They take special care of their kin. They download wisdom through the root system, through the mycorrhizal, through the microbiome, with the fungus. It's all a big communication network of love.
yes,
And now I not only, that's not like a theory for me. I feel that. I
yes,
feel that. And after this, do you hear them? Do you feel them? Millions and millions of souls. That was an absolute total game changer, life changer. And I'll never be the same.
yes, yes. I know exactly what you mean, because often when I'm in nature, I forget that there are animals and trees. It's I don't. There's just no sense of separation. There's just this beautiful dance of love and light and boundlessness. And uh, even though it's a little bit of a separation in it, I see them as just the same way I would a person. Not in as they're separate from me, but just plants are people, and dogs and cats and birds. They're just people too, on some deep, intimate, interconnected level. And so part of the reason I moved to where I live now is because there's such an opportunity to immerse yourself in nature. There's something my favorite when I my favorite activity besides doing the work that I do is just being in nature, because it feels like home.
That's so great. Yeah. Well, more and more of us, I'll say, the big us, is discovering that that's our home. That this is not alien to us. That Dr. Suzanne says that the trees have 9 senses. We only have 5. And some of the trees that she works with are 1,000, 1,500 years old. They were here long before there was a United States. They were here long before there was a Renaissance. They were here long before there was anything that we think is the most sophisticated and amazing human endeavors. But these big, giant, incredible trees, they've been here way longer and have enormous wisdom, really real wisdom.
Yes.
So it's incredible to rethink all of that, and then to experience that we're in the company of beings, real beings.
Yes.
And I remember the first time, another story I'll tell you, that when the first Achuar man who left the forest and came to live with us to learn English, and when he landed in San Francisco, after being on a plane, the first plane of his life, flying over land, looking down and seeing the ocean. He'd never seen the ocean. He only lived on a river. And when he got to San Francisco airport, he wanted to go first to the ocean before he came to our home, even though he'd been flying for many hours, because he wanted to see waves and salt water, because he'd only seen a river, a brown,
Right.
winding Amazonian river. And we took him to the beach, and the waves were super big. We took him to Ocean Beach.
Yes.
And he was just astounded, and you could see him connect with them. And then the sand, and then tasting the salt water, and he stood in the surf. And then he came to our house, and when he came in the front door, first of all, he had a vision when he was 14 of something that he didn't understand. It was our house, and he recognized it. And he walked through my living room to what we call the music room, to the piano. And I have a very beautiful, what's called a parlor grand piano. My father was a musician, so he left me this exquisite piano, which we've had since then refinished. And it's one of those beautiful black pianos that sort of has shiny, wonderful surface with the wood. And he went over to the piano and he put his hands on it like he recognized it. It was a tree. Now,
Right.
I never thought of my piano as a tree.
Right.
But for him, this was a tree. And then when I sat down and started playing the tree, it was like, and it was so incredible. So now when I sit and play the piano, ever since that moment, I realized it came from a tree. I realized that the keys came from where they came from. I realized that the strings, I have a relationship with the origin of my piano, which is the earth, but I never before then thought of it that way.
Right.
So it's another story.
That's beautiful stories. Thank you. I'm looking forward to your book coming out. I think, I'm sure everyone listening to this is probably more interested in it now than they were before. So if you had to, this engaging in a purpose bigger than yourself, if you were to give people guidance of how to open to that, what would it be?
Well, I think everyone who's here on the planet now has a job to do. It's not a small job or a big job, or not a small role or a big role. It's just your role. And I think people's life is often about finding that. And I call it, what are you standing for? Because I think we're living at such a critical time. One of my mentors, Joanna Macy, the great Buddhist teacher who's 93, says people are waiting in line to incarnate right now because it's so exciting. We're in such a huge transition. We're in such a huge evolutionary leap that all the souls that are available want to be part of this. And I like thinking that thought. I like her beautiful image of souls waiting in line to incarnate, because here we are, we're here.
Yes.
And this is a time of profound transformation, not just personal transformation, which is a wonderful thing, but species transformation, our species. And so I think everybody alive today has a role to play. And it may be a role as being the best kindergarten teacher that's ever taught at that school, who's teaching children in a way that they understand that every action they take impacts the future of life for the next 1,000 years. It might be that kind of kindergarten teacher. It might be that you're a fireman who's not just a fireman, which is a wonderful thing to be, save lives, take care of our communities, but you're also a fireman who's discovering that in the blush of climate change, we have new ideas and ways to prevent the fires in these forests that you're going to come up with because you can see how critical the forests are. Or you're Hale Dwoskin, who knows that being with people and listening deeply to them and giving them the opportunity to share the deepest longings of their heart and who they are leads them to find their place in the great community of life. So I think everyone has a role to play. And if you play it, your life will be enormously meaningful. And how you discover what it is by looking at what you've always paid attention to way back on the playground in first grade, second grade, third grade. Maybe you were the person who always picked, when it was time to pick teams, the person who was left out. Maybe your commitment, your stand, your lifelong stand has always been inclusivity. And that's what you stand for. And so you're going to live with that stand in every job you take, in every conversation you have, in every way you walk in the world. Or maybe when you were a little girl, the whole thing that touched your heart was an experience of making sure that everybody had somebody who listened to them. And so you're one of the people who creates convenings of listening rather than speaking, listening tours rather than speaking tours.
I like that. Yeah.
Maybe you're someone who's always been touched by how we domesticate animals and to stop animal cruelty. And so you're doing work either in your job where you get paid or your volunteer work, to ensure that these chicken farms disappear and that we have free range chickens, and that we are not cruel in the way we slaughter our animals for meat, and you're going to find ways to contribute to that. Maybe you're someone like me who knows that our relationship with money is so tainted and so dysfunctional that you want to spend your life being someone who shows people the power of letting money flow through and becoming a person of generosity. Doesn't have to be a philanthropist with billions of dollars, but your life is about being generous with money, etc. So I'm just suggesting that everybody has, I think, a kind of a dharma, a specialty, a unique gift that they want to give to the world, and that it's a stand that they can take once they discover it to live consistent with that. And that's a little bit of what the book is about, and how to find that, how to search in your childhood. Who were your childhood heroes? Who did you want to be like? Who are the people who've really touched your heart? Is it the Maya Angelou's of the world? Is it the Jane Goodalls? Is it the, who are the people that really touch your heart? And it gives you clues. All these things give you clues to what your unique offering is and what you want to turn your life over to. And so that's what the book is about.
Sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful. And also, just for anyone who's listening to this, also know that whatever you're already doing is your purpose too.
Exactly.
In other words, you can't get this wrong.
That's right.
The more you live as that truth of love and beingness that all is, the more you find this harmony and light and joy, and the more you're part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem, the more you experience the perfection that already is in this moment. Again, yes, there's turmoil on the planet. There's things that must be addressed if we want to continue to have the human species continue. But at the same time, in this moment, there is a beauty and a perfection and a beingness or an isness that, if we can spend some time acknowledging that, honoring that, being that, and allow that to inform our journey to find purpose or our journey to do good things in the world, we're doing it from a much more whole, full, open place. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that. And that is a dharma of its own. So in every job and every role and every place that we have in life, there's that opportunity to be fully present with that, and know that the love that you have for life can be expressed as a bus driver, as a waitress, as a researcher. It's really your relationship with what you're doing and your capacity to bring your full self to it that makes a committed life. So that's a beautiful way to look at it. And I do think that that we're all, we all have doubts about ourselves. We all worry that we're not on track, etc. And even addressing all of that is an act of generosity and grace to be in the inquiry. And
yes.
I know that's so much of what you help people with, knowing that the inquiry is healthy, not a problem. Yeah,
yes,
it's a beautiful part of life.
Yes. I haven't found any parts of life that aren't beautiful.
That's right, because that's the lens through which you look.
So I think in our communication before we did this, there was a gift you wanted to give people. Was that?
Oh yeah, and I think that's been set up with your team, but we have something called the 3 laws of money magic, and it's a little video of a little teaching about money forgiveness, how to forgive yourself for maybe mistakes you might have made with money. Just a little video, and it leads you to to a course that we do called, let's see, what is it called? From Scarcity to Prosperity, I think is what it's called.
Oh, good,
and it's
good
very
title.
inexpensive, and it's the Soul of Money message. So we'll make sure to give that free gift to everybody who's part of this wonderful recording.
Well, good. Thank you for doing that. It's very generous. That your perspective on money is one I wish everyone had, because it certainly, that in and of itself would be very transformational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. It's not just my perspective; it's the perspective many people share. But
Oh yes,
I wrote about
absolutely.
it.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
I
wrote about it, but yes, a lot of people do share that perspective.
including you.
True, but
Yeah.
So, is there a parting thought you'd like to leave us with?
Yes, I've discovered in the last few years of my life that we're living in what I'm calling the Sophia century. The Sophia century, the first century of the third millennium. And if you step back, as Buckminster Fuller taught me to do, and look at the long continuum of time, we're only 22 years into the first century of the third millennium. So we're starting a whole nother kind of era. And I consider this century the Sophia century, a century when women will take our rightful role in co-equal partnership with men, and the world will come back into balance. And I'll tell you one short prophecy about this century that comes from the Baha'i people. They say that for hundreds of years, the bird of humanity has been flying primarily with one wing, its male wing. And that the bird of humanity has a male wing and a female wing. But the female wing has been folded in, not yet fully expressed, in fact, a little bit truncated and suppressed, while the male wing has been fully expressed in all of us, and has, in order to keep the bird of humanity afloat, has become over-muscular, overdeveloped, and in fact, now violent. And the bird of humanity has been flying in circles for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yes.
But at this time in history, the Sophia century, this 100-year cycle, the female wing in all of us, in men and women, will fully express, allowing the masculine in all of us to relax a little bit. And for the first time in hundreds of years, the bird of humanity will soar. So I like to leave everybody with that image, that thought. And whoever you are, man or woman or non-binary, our feminine qualities are really important right now. The qualities of the heart, the qualities of the spirit. They need to have as much clout and visibility as our masculine qualities to get through the kind of wormhole we're in. And so that's my final thought. Let's all soar with both the masculine and the feminine wing fully extended.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Lynne Twist. You can learn more about Lynne at soulofmoney.org. You can also access a free mini masterclass on money forgiveness at soulofmoney.org/3 steps. That's soulofmoney.org/3 steps.org. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona Method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.